Senator Bo Hatchett, if you will bless it this morning, we've got folders coming and we will move forward and go from there. Okay? Thank you, sir. Your number there? 11. You are
number
on.
11. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for waking us up this morning and get us here safely. Please continue to work through us to do your will for the people of the state of Georgia. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I know we don't have our folders yet, but I'm going to do this, Representative Smiles, since we've heard you. We've got a fiscal note from prior, what it was that there was no. I think that was the biggest thing. So why don't you give us a overview real quickly?
Thank you very much.
And work from there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here again. And this morning I'm joined by Floor Leader Lauren McDonald in the governor's office. And, you know, one thing about serving up here, you know, the relationships matter. And I got a chance to meet his son, who's a junior now, Britley. And then I knew his father, who served with me, Lauren Bubba McDonald. He was chair of the Appropriations Committee. And it's amazing, you serve with someone and then you see a son born. Now you meet his grandson. So that's the good part about serving in the Georgia House of Representatives. Sort of has that family aura. And I'm just really happy this morning to see Bubba McDonald's grandson. And so Lauren is here. I mean, Floor Leader McDonald is here on behalf of the governor, and the governor's staff is here all as well. And the reason I'm deeply honored, when the city of Columbus asked me to bring the Public Safety Week in lieu of September the 11th, that inspired me to want to do that. But then when I got a call from the governor's office and his staff, and I met with them about Juneteenth, and I reflected back to 1984 when I carried the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday bill. And to have putting hands on 2 state holidays is a deep honor. So very briefly, this will just update the number of holidays that the state must observe from 12 to 13. It does not affect the number of holidays that we've had. It does not eliminate, it just adds Juneteenth as a state holiday. And of course, adding the state holiday, the fiscal impact from 2020 pertaining to a bill that would have added a state holiday, the only anticipated negative fiscal impact would be from essential employees that have deferred time because they worked on the holiday. So, but most of the employees of the state are salaried, therefore adding no cost to the state. So that's basically it. We will have the 10 holidays and the 2 floating holidays. And again, it's an honor for me to come and the governor, Floor Leader McDonald had this legislation. My bill was in the committee, and they made a substitute to HB 1335, where we would also have Public Safety Week in the state of Georgia on September 11th, observance of September 11th, and adding 1 additional state holiday to the holidays that the state will observe, and that's basically it.
Okay. We have number 11, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, isn't it true this is one of the governor's bills, and it's a priority of mine as a floor leader to make sure it gets through the Senate? Yes, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I can follow up, this bill only adds 1 additional state holiday and does not take away any current holidays observed by the state.
And we still have the 2 floating holidays at discretion of the governor, as precedent has been set in that regard. It's the same thing that we're following the same procedure that we followed on the Martin Luther King holiday back in '84.
Thank you. And if I could just one more, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And I thank you for bringing this bill. And I just want to also, just to clarify, this bill also celebrates the brave men and women who lay their life on the line each day to protect our communities by designating the week of September 11th as Public Safety Week. Well, I really appreciate you bringing this bill, and I look forward to supporting it.
Number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dean Smyrie, we are family. We're highly dysfunctional, but we are family. And Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time when you have gotten all the questions, I would like to make a motion.
Okay, we've got 2 others that want to come in. I'll come back to you in just a second, sir, and I'm ready if they are. Let's see. Number 6. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this up. My question the other day when we met, and I appreciate the governor's office reaching out to me, was the cost of this. And of course, I've got a letter now that actually was done in March of 2020 from Greg Griffin and Kelly Farr, saying there was no cost to it, and I really appreciate that. And so the other thing is, if Mr. Chairman, at appropriate time, I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, we've got, hadn't opened up, I'm gonna have one more question. Let me go there, and then I'm gonna come back to our motion real quickly. Okay.
Thank you.
That's objection. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're on.
Representative Smyre, I just want to thank you for all of the work that you've done to make sure that Georgia could be the best place to live in this country. And I want to thank you. You brought Martin Luther King Day the year that I was born. You carried that. And I think that it's a great honor that you would be able to also bring Juneteenth to our great state. So just want to simply thank you for your work, for your legacy, and acknowledge that I feel very much like I stand on your shoulders because of your great work. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I can say this, that Dr. King's holiday bill has been introduced over many, many years. And when Tony Harris became governor, he called me and said that he wanted to bring forth, and as his floor leader, I introduced the bill, and then the opportunity I had was with Governor Nathan Deal when he wanted to do the statue of Dr. King. So I've had a lot of relationships with the King family, and but I'm deeply honored, and I appreciate your kind remarks. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think we had a motion. Senator Dugan. Second, we've got from Senator Hickman. And what's the, any further discussion? And pleasure committee, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, looks like you're unanimous on that, okay. Thank you, if you can
Thank
get.
you. It's nice working with you. This is my first time coming to your committee, the second time now. But
We wanted you back more so we could get to know you.
But I respect what you all do, and I have some friends here, and I want to acknowledge Butch Miller, Senator Miller, and we've worked together over the years, and of course Senator Dugan I've gotten to know because of his professionalism and coming to Columbus and building one of our high schools there. So it's been a great relationship, and we'll be in Statesboro in June. I'm going to go by and see Senator Hickman. So the family's growing.
Very good.
Thank
Thank you
y'all
so much for
thank you.
your service and all that you've done for us, and we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Y'all
sir.
Have a great day.
Thank you. All right. Representative Taylor is next on the agenda.
Young blood.
Yes, ma'am. You
Okay.
are up next. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And I'm bringing you House Bill 1182. It's a major part of an economic development program for Grady County in South Georgia. This bill has been requested by the Board of Commissioners and their county attorney. It's a long story. I won't drag it out, but it's like 70 years ago, they began trying to develop a marshy area, very low, and it took them 70 years to get a permit from EPD to build the dam and make that into a recreational area. It is completed now. We were surprised about 10 years ago when they got the permits. And it's a wonderful place. I invite you to come down and fish. It's wonderful. It's about a 900 and something acre lake. Now they want to develop it. The county has owned all this property for years. It's about 600, 700 acres around it. And just to make sure the property has clear title and everything is fine, the county attorney asked for this bill. And what it does is clearly state that the county has the right to develop it. And that's really basically what the bill does.
Okey-dokey. We have a question number 12. Is that Senator Miller down there?
Yep.
Yes, sir. You're on.
Thank you, Representative Taylor, for being here this morning and presenting this. I know we've discussed it over time. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? If I appreciate you bringing it, and Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
I'm open to that. We have one more question, and I'll come right back to you, sir. Number 7. Yes. Excuse me. Mr. Kim Jackson. Oops. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand. I think what you all are trying to do, I'm just a little concerned because by definition, if you look on line 14, a lake, by definition, by our law, requires at least 1,000 acres.
Right.
And your lake is less than that.
Well,
So
it's actually a little bit more if you count the fingers that go around it, and it goes on the other side of a bridge. I believe it's actually a little over 1,000.
it is over.
Yeah, it is. It is the main part of it where the dam is, but it has longer fingers that extend out of it.
Okay.
So,
And then my next question, my concern is that, so every lake in Georgia, there are no natural lakes really in Georgia. And so if we pass this provision, which I'm not saying we shouldn't, but if we do this, this makes this that would be for every lake in our entire state that we would be making this decision. And so I just want to make sure that the committee is mindful of that in our action, that we are making this law and this change, and it would apply to essentially every state,
I
every
think
lake in our state.
This is current language. This is not something new. So, I haven't had any changes to it. This is what's actually there.
Right, but the part that you're adding says that these provisions in this subsection shall not apply. So the provisions that are listed will no longer apply, and that would no longer apply to anywhere in our state where there's a county developing a lake.
I think this was something written specifically for Grady County. They were very careful when they wrote this particular part of the code, making sure that it would cover it. It came about actually because of a project in Appling County many years ago. I don't know the exact number of years. And when they wrote it, they had changed it, and we're putting it back so that it would be applicable now. That's basically how this came about. It did not, they did not develop their project in Appling County, and that's why it changed what it would do, and that's why we're putting this back in, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay. Good. Senator Miller?
I make a motion at the appropriate time to pass.
No further questions? Okay. Right time, we have a motion from Senator Miller. Got a second from Senator Hatchett. Any further questions? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okie dokie. All opposed? They're not unanimous. You
Thank
are
you
on
so
to
much.
rules.
I appreciate it.
To talk to Senator Mullis.
Thank you.
Tell him goodbye while you're there.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Okie dokie.
We have a forum?
He wants to know my favorite color.
Oh, okay. This is that new one he showed us the other day. All right. Thank you. Representative Gamble. Good to have you this morning. I think we talked on this one last year.
Yes,
did
sir, we
not?
did. Thank you, Mr.
What
Chairman.
happened to you? We got you out of here, and you're back again. You just like us?
You know, I am, and I
Okay.
don't know what the linden tree is. I'm still trying to figure that one out on the rules form. But anyway, House Bill 92 is the one that I'm here for today, and you will remember this from last year. Y'all passed it last year. Now, I want to say the bill that you've got in front of you, and I apologize. This is my 4th session, and this is the first time that I've had a bill that was carried over and made it all the way to rules on the Senate side, and then has come back to the committee that it originated into in the Senate. So apparently it has gone back to the House version that you had before we amended it in your committee last year. And so I apologize if I missed and dropped the ball and should have got with Ledge Council, because we're going to need to amend this bill to accommodate a change that the department asked for last year. And I'm happy to go over that in a minute, but let me tell you why we're doing this. About 4 years ago, legislation was passed, a title cleanup bill that dealt with a lot of things. And in it was this right here, which changes the number of years that have to pass in order to get a birth certificate or a death certificate. and our genealogists around the state that are very active in that. You probably got some emails from them. They have requested that we go back to the way it was, and so the department has held firm that they want to keep the number of years for accessing a birth certificate at 125, but they are willing to accept going back to the previous number of years for a death or marriage certificate, and that's at 75 years. So that's what this is accomplishing. It's a compromise. It's not everything the genealogists want, but compromise is how we get things done around here, and I'm happy to do that if that's the will of the committee. So.
Okay. Senator Hatchett?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make that amendment.
Okay. And you said there's a change this here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Off this, and that's just changing those years, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And that puts it back to where it was last year?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, the change will be.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
LC 38488 is what we're working from, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay. And we have a motion from Senator Hatchett.
The posture, would we need to make a motion to pass the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I'm not clear on what the amendment is.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Current law is that it requires 125 years to elapse after the date of birth to obtain the birth certificate. In this bill, they lessen that to 100 at the request of Department of Public Health and others, and the author. We're going to keep that 125 in there, so we're going to actually take out 100 years and revert it back to 125.
And leave the other one at 75.
And the other will be 75,
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, good. Thanks for clearing that portion back up. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Motion to pass from Senator.
That's a motion to pass on the amendment. You got to vote
On the amendment, we're going to have an amendment here, so that's going to, a second from Senator Miller. Any other further discussions on the amendment? None. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Okay, hands there. We're all passed there. Okay. Now we have the bill before us with the amendment. Any further questions? No further questions? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. We're good. Okay. And all opposed? Okay, we're good. You're on to rules.
Thank you. I
What's your
appreciate
favorite? Did you give your favorite color?
I did. It's red.
It's red. Okay. Okay.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
make sure.
Thank you.
Representative Chokas. All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring before you today House Bill 918. And the first thing I want to say is there's no new money attached to this bill. No new money. Nothing was appropriated. We don't need any money. Any cost for the meetings will be absorbed by the Department of Public Health in their existing budget. So that's the first thing, but this bill simply creates the Rare Disease Advisory Council. A rare disease is defined as a disease that affects fewer than 200,000 people in the United States. But there are over 7,000 rare diseases. So in total, they affect between 25 and 30 million Americans, more than half of which are children. A state-based advisory council composed of qualified professionals, persons living with rare diseases, and their caregivers could educate medical professionals, government agencies, and the public about rare diseases and as an important health issue, and encourage research and development into new ways to diagnose and treat this disease. That's basically what the bill does. There was an amendment, or actually I think there was two amendments, and that would be on, and I think y'all have that.
this is LC 339155S, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And there were two amendments.
Well, on this one is they added line, hold on, line 90 to 97. And it says that the advise the Department of Community Health with respect to state health plans, including Medicare, Peach Care, State Health Benefit Plan, in their review of products or medications for the treatment of rare or orphan diseases and drugs or biological products with the emerging fields of personalized medicine and gene editing therapeutics. The Department of Community Health shall seek input of the Advisory Council regarding rare diseases and personalized medicines to address topics including but not limited to the impact of coverage, cost sharing, tiering, utilization management, and access to rare diseases. And this change was supported by the Department of Public Health.
Okay, and there was, I believe we also talked about a 3-year sunset provision we were going to put in here.
Yes, sir.
As
Yes,
far
sir.
as an amendment, and we're good.
That's not in here right now. You need
That's
to
not in here right now.
committee to make
No, sir.
Okay, if I can get somebody to make a motion, we had talked about this and agreed to put a 3-year sunset provision on it. If I can get a motion on that, and we've got one on number 7. Yeah, got a motion there? Okay, and a second?
hang on, we
Whoops.
gotta clarify exactly what kind of sunset you're doing.
Okay, 3-year sunset,
So December 31st.
December 31st, yeah.
On line 118.
118. Let's council for the sunset provision. Yes.
We're sunsetting, I mean, it has no fiscal impact.
No
Does
fiscal
it-
impact at all.
But my question is, would it call for a sunset? Would the establishment of this agency call for a sunset if it has no fiscal impact? And if not, I would beg the reason that the sunset would just cause someone to come back here 3 years from now and renew this piece of legislation. If there is no fiscal impact, I would suggest we not have a sunset, if that pleases the chairman.
I can agree with that one. You can withdraw your motion. We got to withdraw all the motions, so we're back to the bill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll work with that. Any other questions on this? I have numbers.
At the appropriate time.
Have the appropriate
I'll
time?
make a
This is
motion.
the appropriate time. Okay, we have a motion from Senator Jackson. Second? Second from Senator Dugan. Okay, any other questions? All done? Okay, and all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? There's no one here for that. And so you are on to rules. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Senator.
Senator Chokas.
Yes, sir.
Who's carrying this in the Senate?
I had asked Senator, Ben Watson.
Okay. You need to get with him.
I will.
Okay.
I will right now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You ready?
All right. Representative Leverett.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And we're working off of LC 442008S,
Yes, sir.
and you have a guest with you as well.
I do. I have the current Inspector General
Do you
with me
want
to
it?
testify on the
Okay.
reasons for the bill and the need for it.
Okay, thank you, sir. We will let you present your bill as we are HB 960.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I appreciate so much you're allowing us to have a hearing on this bill, and I appreciate the committee's consideration of it. You stated the LC number. This is a bill that would basically give a statutory foundation to the existing Office of Inspector General, which currently exists pursuant to executive order within the Office of the Governor. The scope of the Inspector General's authority is somewhat limited. The Inspector General is not a prosecuting officer. He simply investigates. and he investigates only issues concerning fraud, waste, corruption, or abuse or misuse of government funds within the executive branch. It was originally formed by Governor Sonny Perdue by executive order back in the mid-2000s. But currently, because there is only executive order creating that branch, the IG has no subpoena and warrant authority and cannot have post-certified officers, which greatly limits his ability to investigate these matters. And so the governor's office has asked me to carry this bill to try to give him that ability. The only way we can confer those powers are through a statutory foundation. So the bill sets out the scope of his duties, and the bill, I will say, is originally filed. This is very different from the version we originally filed. It went through House Judiciary, and as many of you are familiar, that it got a line-by-line review and revision for which that committee has sort of transcended into the legendary. And so it's very, very focused at this point. The IG currently serves at the pleasure of governor. This would make the IG removable only for cause, and he or she would have a 6-year term, which the initial appointment would be in July of this year. And I think that basically summarizes the nature of the bill and the purpose of it, and the IG is here to talk a little bit about what his office does on a day-to-day basis to give the committee a better sense of what his duties and current functions are.
Mr. Chair, I'll wait for the IG because my questions are going to go to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of this committee, and thank you for allowing me to speak in favor of HB 960. My name is Scott McAfee. I've been serving in the role of IG for about a year now, and I'm honored to speak in favor of this bill, which is one that would finally codify and grant statutory authority to the Georgia Office of the Inspector General. At its core, this is a bill about transparency and accountability, because the IG's office exists so that citizens can have trust in their government. We passed the House earlier this month with a vote of 163-0, with only a few minutes of debate. We think that's because this is simply a good government bill. It's one that makes sense, and it's one that's 19 years, in our minds, overdue. We are an independent and objective watchdog tasked with investigations and oversight over ethics, fraud, abuse, waste, sexual harassment, and administrative violations throughout the executive branch. We do not have any oversight over the judiciary or the legislature. We are simply confined to the 80-plus agencies and 100,000-plus state employees. And that's been our lane, again, for the past 19 years. Just a brief bit of background. The concept of IGs goes back over 40 years federally now. There are over 75 IGs at the federal level. They're embedded within each federal agency. We're talking about a total aggregate budget of over $2 billion, staff of 13,000. IGs are very much at the core of the federal government at this point, and they've been spreading throughout the states. If we were to pass this bill, Georgia would now become the 11th state with a statewide IG office. And just to point out that those 10 other states, each one of those are in statute. Each one of those has law enforcement powers, including subpoenas and search warrants. So it's very much a part of this bill that IGs are expected to become law enforcement agencies so they can efficiently and effectively conduct their investigations. And after 19 years, it is time to make Georgia's OIG a truly effective fraud-preventing and crime-fighting organization. We think we can do more, and that's what this bill does. So the bill language is based on model language that's compiled by a National Association of Inspectors General. It's based on our current executive order, and it's based on legislation that we've seen in other states. And as Representative Leverett pointed out, it's also based on an extensive and thorough review from the Judiciary Committee, which I believe has brought up some unfortunate memories. But most importantly, as I've mentioned, this grants us designation as a law enforcement agency. And that's important in a number of ways. I'd like to just briefly highlight that lack of a designation has impeded our investigations in a number of ways. First, law enforcement designation guarantees safety for our investigators. Very often, we need to conduct investigations in our cases, and most often, those are going to be most effective out in the field. You're going to be going on someone's doorstep and knocking on the door. Our officers aren't allowed to be post-certified. They can't carry firearms. They don't have that training that would be entitled to them through post-certification. So, for example, if we know that a certain target of an investigation either has a violent criminal history or that they live with others that do, how can we send them into the field with that with that knowledge, knowing that there's an incredible risk when we do that. And by not doing that, we're limiting our ability to conduct these investigations. Second, it slows us down. White-collar investigations, which is what we do, are notoriously time-intensive. They take a long time because you're looking at a lot of documents. And speed is important in white-collar investigations because criminal suspects, often, they'll get rehired. They'll reoffend if we can't put that case together quick enough. If we're wanting to get any of that money back for the state, money that was stolen from the state, the longer a case goes on, the more likely it is that money's going to disappear, that we can't get it back through civil forfeiture, that we can't take it from those criminal suspects once we put our case together. It inhibits our ability to obtain evidence. That's what the subpoenas and the search warrants are all about. And it diminishes our deterrent effect. If an investigation drags on for 3 or 4 years, what kind of message is that sending to the people that are stealing from our state? When it's sending a message that we can't hold them accountable because it's taking so long to bring them to justice. Another thing, this bill would open the door to federal resources. If we have post-certified investigators, we can serve on federal task force. And we've had a standing invitation from the FBI here in Atlanta to send one of our investigators to join one of their task force. But they can't do that unless he's actually a law enforcement officer. And additionally, it prevents investigative overlap. The fact is that it would make us, as I've said, efficient and wouldn't drain other agency resources. Right now, we have to go to the Attorney General's office for subpoenas and search warrants, or we go to the GBI, and they're busy with their own cases. Obviously, they're very busy agencies. They have different purviews. Ours is solely focused on the executive branch, and by going through them, we're just creating additional channels where things can slow down, where they get thrown by the wayside, or the focus is somewhere else. So the fact is that this bill is going to codify our goal of being proactive. It's also going to authorize audits and evaluations of agencies, because as OIG traditionally, you want to also catch the fraud on the front end. You want to find those inefficiencies and those controls that can be controlled on the front end. It's not always about just cleaning up a mess that you find after the fact. So overall, this is a bill that we believe is focused on the independence of the office and effective oversight. And so I would urge each of you to vote in favor of it, because Georgians do deserve a government free from fraud, from sexual harassment, and this bill would send a strong message in determining the character and conscience of our executive branch. Thank you.
We got multiple questions. I was just going to ask, could you give us your background just a little bit, in the position you're in? What's your history from that standpoint, since you're in that position right now, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir. I have, as I mentioned, I've been in this role for the past year. I have a law degree background from the UGA, and I served the last 8 years as a state and federal prosecutor here in Fulton County in the Northern District. So it's a criminal prosecution background. Nationally, that is a common background for IGs. You either see CPAs with auditing backgrounds, or you see that criminal investigative background.
Multiple questions here. Number 7, Kim. Senator Jackson, okay. You're
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know a bit about this term limit, the term being for 6 years. How was that determined? Can you give me a little bit of kind of the backstory to that? And then also, well, just answer that first. My friend, my representative.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Good to see you, too, this morning.
It's good to see you.
I suppose I would say the legislative process would be the best explanation I could come up for that. Initially, as filed, the bill provided that the IG would just serve an indefinite term. And I think some of the folks on the Judiciary Committee felt like it should be limited in some fashion. And so we came up with just a 6-year term, because we thought that would give the IG time to get in the office and maintain a certain level of independence, but yet he or she can be removed for cause with notice. Sure. So there was really no science to it. It was just what sort of the consensus the committee was at the time.
May I follow-up question? So the way that it's framed right now is that the IG would be appointed in July of 2022. A 6-year term would mean that whoever is the next governor would not have an opportunity to appoint an IG. In the years following that, every governor will have a chance at some point, maybe. But I'm just wondering if we might change that piece of it so that no governor is without an opportunity to reconsider who they might want to be their IG.
I think we'd be open to that amendment, but I would urge, we do like the notion of it being a period of time that would allow for independence, because we think the the office will function better if there's some degree of independence to that official.
Okay.
Sure.
Senator Miller, is that 12?
At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I'll be ready to make a motion.
Okay, hold that. Number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
I actually kind of like the 6-year thing because it keeps it apolitical. That would be my argument about it. And of all the things in here, you would think that the subpoena thing would be the one that jumped out at me, but I understand the need for it. But I have served under a variety of IGs over my life. My concern is when we get down to about 162. None of the IGs that I served with had the actual policing powers. They did have to work in coordination with other pre-described law enforcement entities, so they were not the judge and the jury, if you will, on that. They served as more of an advisory capacity with the results of their investigation. I understand your rationale for having expedience on this thing, but it kind of does away from your investigatory thing if you have the arrest powers at the same time. I'm not being very clear with my question, but it feels like you're muddying the purpose of the office a little bit by having that section in there.
Thank you, Senator. And what immediately comes to mind in terms of the post-certification is I want to be very clear that there's several checks on the office. Is we would by no means be the jury. We can't issue indictments. Any prosecution that we recommend is going to go through another agency. It's going to go to the Attorney General. It's going to go to a district attorney. It's going to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so what post-certification does is it would allow us to seek search warrants, which we wouldn't be able to do without post. And it would allow our officers, as I mentioned, to be able to go out into the field and conduct surveillance. It would allow them to carry firearms if they're conducting, if that's necessary in a surveillance situation where there might be issues at risk. And so, in terms of the post-certification, that is the focus there. It's very much modeled on in our criminal system is you have investigative agencies like your local police department, your sheriff, who are post-certified. They'll work up a case, they'll investigate it with their post powers, and then they just turn the file over to the prosecuting agency. And that's simply what we're doing is we would pass the case over to them, and we want to have it worked up, wrapped up with a bow tied on it before we hand it over to the people who will make that charging decision.
Okay. One more follow-up, Mr. Chair, if I can. So this just came to my mind right as we were sitting here. And I would ask Senator Jackson down there, would 6 years be better in your mind sitting if the Senate had the approval like we do on a lot of other appointments that come through that office? Confirmation, yeah.
Thank you. I think my issue with the 6 years, it's not the 6 years, it's when the 6 years term starts. So it would, I think that the 6 year term should start at the beginning of a new governor's term. That way, every time a new governor, every 6 years, but that would still be in the middle of somebody's governorship. Does that make sense? They would have an opportunity to evaluate their IG. It'd either be at the beginning of their governorship or in the middle of their governorship. But right now, if we start it, then there will be an entire governor who will not have a chance to, I think math is not my strongest suit. I am a preacher, but I'm pretty sure if we start the term at 2020, whenever the new term starts, 2023, then in every 6 years thereafter, that would ensure that every governor has an opportunity to consider. To me, that would fix it. I'm not concerned about 6 years. It makes sense that there's 6 years. I'm just trying to make sure that we keep it fair.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say, you're making some assumptions on who the next governor is going to be.
Well, every term, right. So it's less about the person and more about the term. In Georgia, our governorship terms are 4 years.
Right. So if you had it at 6, let's just say regardless of how the gubernatorial race turns out this time, that person is either going to be still here or new. And if they would have the opportunity, if they're new, to run for reelection in 4 years from now. So they would have an appointment that's 6. I guess where I'm going is, regardless of how you do the math on this, somebody's going. That's kind of the point. Is it becomes a non-political office because it's not tied with each gubernatorial election.
Okay.
I was going to, I guess I was looking for clarification on the 6-year term thing. I think if it starts now, whomever is elected, whoever's elected post this next term has a choice. And whoever's elected, I like the 6-year term as well, and I think now is the appropriate time to start that. It catches the middle of it. But my other question was around the investigative powers and authority when you mentioned issuing of subpoenas and so forth. So would these investigations be private? Would they be public? Would they be public? Or would they be, would the general public know that so-and-so is being investigated?
Well, no, Senator. If it is a ongoing investigation, that is a clear
So there's no comment on it.
exception to open records.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment on that question also? That was a concern in front of House Judy because as originally filed, it provided for the issuing of reports on an interim basis in the middle of investigations. We excised that language from the bill, and currently, at least the authority of the Inspector General is limited to issuing reports when there's a finding of fraud, abuse, waste, corruption. So the reports are not issued on an interim basis. They are only issued afterwards, and they are issued to the governor. They can be made public, but anything that would be inappropriate to disclose under open records is to be redacted.
I guess my further comment when you say House Judy, I guess I'm withdrawing my original intent. In fact, I am withdrawing my original intent. I think this might be better served in Senate Judy rather than in government oversight for folks who have a stronger background in that area. So thank you very much for presenting the bill.
Thank you. Can I also address Senator Dugan's question about, to be clear, the IG has no authority to prosecute. They only investigate, and it would be up to an appropriate law enforcement agency as to whether any kind of prosecution was followed from that point.
Okay, you just greatly summarized what I was trying to say for 15 minutes. 162.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was trying to say. You just said it a lot more eloquently than I did. You got your own little office of cops, is what it looks like, a subsection of it. And I'm just more used to seeing an entity like this that relies on, if you have the need to have support go in with you, like you said, going door knocking, that you are a little dependent on another entity, but that's that entity's sole job. And your sole job is to look for fraud, misdeeds, and anything else that would fall under an IG's capacity. So that's where I'm stuck on this a little bit.
One other thing I might add on that is that just as a matter of policy making, the people that we would be going to and reliant without this authority would be the same ones we're tasked with oversight. So if part of our job is to be that watchdog agency over the Attorney General's office, over the Governor's office, over the GBI, you can come up with scenarios where if we're investigating the GBI but we're relying on the GBI for subpoena search warrants, it's a bit of an awkward situation. And again, it's about checks and balances in my mind.
I understand that, and we could. I mean, like any bill, we could take it to the level of absurdity. What if it's you we're investigating?
Right, and that's where the GBI would come in, and the Attorney General would come in to check me. And so.
And he
it's-
does have to go to the AG if he's going to enforce any of these subpoenas or warrants. He can issue them, he can't enforce them like any agency. That has to be done through the AG's office.
And I would add, if there's abuse of the office, that's where the governor can step in and fire an IG for good cause. So everyone has a role at the table to make sure power is not abused, I think, which is a inherent feature of the system.
And one other thing, Senator Dugan, a lot of these cases, they tend to be document intensive, so a lot of other law enforcement agencies don't really want to deal with them because they just require so much, time and dedication of staff, and they're out trying to catch, burglars and other criminals.
Yeah, the length is in the investigation. The length is not in the day-to-day actions that you may need during that lengthy investigation to secure another piece of information that you need. That would be where the law enforcement piece that you used as the example with the support would come in. I'm stuck on it. You can tell. I'm stuck on.
I sense that, Senator. I'm trying to.
I'm trying to be subtle
trying
with
to
it.
give you some salve to help you get unstuck, but I don't feel
No,
like
no,
I'm
no.
making any
It's
progress.
it's in my craw here for a little bit. But I also understand that we have to take action on this bill today, or it's dead.
Well, I don't think the committee has to do anything it doesn't want to do. I'm here to ask that you would take action, and I would greatly appreciate
No. Mr. Chair, I'm laying my cards on the table, what I'm trying to do here. We need a little bit more time to get into the details of this. What I'm going to do is about to piss you off. Ooh, I can't say that. I'm about to ask to amend your bill to strike it, which I'm pretty certain is going to throw this into a conference if the committee accept the amendment and pass it. And that will get us the time to get a lot of these questions answered that I'm still stuck with a little bit.
Senator,
But I'm looking at my watch, and
The option would be for me to table it.
yes, I was going to say that will not. I would appreciate that. As they say, it's like a birthday. It's better than the alternative.
yes, and it keeps it alive and going forward for the time being. If Mr. Chairman, if I could do that,
If you will do that, please, sir, and give us your amendment.
my amendment is simply to strike lines 161 to 174.
Okay. And also, we were looking in line 43 to add confirmation by the Senate.
Okay. I'll go with
In
that.
line 43.
And that would not be the cause for a conference committee. Confirmation by the Senate would.
Correct, would not.
Perfectly agreeable.
Well, I mean,
Right. But
that's
we'll make
just-
it
just
one
common
amendment rather
sense.
than two amendments, if that's okay. Okay. Okay, so the amendment would read, we're striking lines 61 through 142, correct?
Is that
161.
161, not
161.
61. Oh, that would really gut the bill.
174, okay,
Yes.
we got that. And then we're going to add in line 43, confirmation by the Senate. We got that? Okay. Let council's got that.
Sorry, Representative. I know that's not how you wanted your morning to go, but I see merit in it. And I want it to keep moving.
I appreciate your concern. I appreciate your honesty, and I'm very appreciative of it.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second on the motion that's been made. We had it from Senator Hatchett, okay. Any other discussion? None? Okay. We have the amendment made on the bill, which is LC 442008S with an amendment that will follow. And all in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Yep.
Are they voting on the amendment?
You're voting on the amendment first. Excuse me, I'm sorry. On the amendment?
Yes.
Amendment passed? Everybody, raise your hand one more time. Okay, okay, do that. Okay.
That sounds good.
And then on the bill, unless there's other questions? As amended. Bill as amended. Okay. Do pass. We have a do pass. We've got a second. And raise your hands one more time if you're in favor. If you're not in favor, don't. Okay. Very good. Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
there,
Thank you,
Representative
Mr. Chairman.
Leopard.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Are you carrying?
Who do you have carrying the Senate? Who's done?
Senator Robertson's carrying it for us.
Senator Roberts. Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank
And
you
we
so
are
much.
dismissed.